Happy Sunday, YouTube. Happy Father's Day to all of you real men out there putting it down every day for your children. Happy Father's Day to all of you. I wanted to get on here on this Sunday and give everybody a take on TCPA. And for a lot of you guys that know me, for the last 6 months, I've been switching from push and life transfers to 100% inbound. Today, every single lead that we work is an inbound, a customer initiated inbound, final expense. So the customer saw our ad and they called in. But today I want to talk to all of you guys about if truly the company that you're buying leads from currently is in compliance. I come across a lot of agencies that are buying leads from marketing firms in the US, and they feel that, man, they're covered. But a lot of them don't realize just how much is outsourced to different countries. Pakistan, Philippines, Guyana, and so on and so forth. A lot of countries that do BPO services, and they're fueling our American agencies with volume every single day because of the cost factor. But I've been talking to you guys for years about compliance, TCPA, DNC. A lot of you guys hate me because I've been talking about this. So I want to share with you guys a current situation of an agency that was the victim of that. The agency purchased leads from XYZ marketing company, and that company outsourced, in this case, to a group in Pakistan. One TCPA violation turned into a class action lawsuit. And I'm going to go ahead and read to you guys what this circumstance is, and hopefully will help prove my point that you need to make sure that your leads are compliant, not just surface. And it's very common for marketing groups to tell you that they got everything covered, but they're not 100% accurate. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys this current situation. Hopefully it helps you learn. And honestly, take a look at the leads that you got now. Verify these leads. So I'm going to share with you guys this, and I'm going to read it to you guys. TCPA World, Call Centrix, LLC, ordered to defend and indemnify Torchlight Technology Group in an ongoing suit, and it all leads back to Pakistan and Wolf BPO. I don't know this company, and really, this message that I'm bringing is not to talk negatively about any country. We all know that no matter where we live, we have good and bad. So this is no way is targeted to any people, in this case, Pakistan. We want to keep the focus on the issue. Now, Eric Troutman, bottom line, he's a badass. He understands TCPA laws. He's defended 70 class action lawsuits. He understands compliance and processes. This man knows what's up. So if you're not following him, you definitely want to follow this gentleman because he got some really good information that can save your ass. But I'm going to go ahead and read parts of this. A court in a pending TCPA class action just granted summary judgment in favor of one defendant against a different defendant. And you don't see that every day. And yes, that means the facts here are really bad. in George Moore versus Torchlight Technology Group, LLC, Call Centrix, LLC, and Carol Stitz, the defendants are facing a putative nationwide TCPA class action brought by a guy named George Moore, who is no stranger to TCPA suits. Okay, you guys following along? The calls at issue were made by a company called Wolf BPO, a company located in Pakistan. Wolf sold the lead to Call Centrix, who purports to provide compliant leads generation call center services. So ask yourself right now, where is your lead coming from? Are you 100% sure that the American marketing company that's selling you these leads were generated onshore or were they offshore? If you don't know the answer, you need to. Let's continue here. Call Centrix, in turn, had contracted with Torchlight, who had apparently agreed to pay CC about $900,000 for TCPA compliant leads. That's a lot of leads, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of leads there. $1 million worth. So their operation was massive, and they were pumping out calls. Turns out, though, the Moore lead wasn't TCPA compliant, not even close. One lead in question here. Per the ruling, Wolf BPO originally claimed that Moore had supplied his contact information on a website called FindQualityInsurance.com. But they were a big fat liars. The lead was fabricated. Moore denied having visited this website, and the website itself confirmed that it had no record of Moore's consent. As such, Call Centrix conceded that it does not have any evidence of a valid written express consent to initiate telemarketing calls to Moore, and thus Moore did not consent to receive such calls. So what does this mean? If in this case, if this person, Mr. Moore, went to this website and filled out whether health insurance, auto, life, say final expense, whatever, and he fills out this information. Well, in this case, Mr. Moore, his claim was he never filled out this information and he never went to this website. And how do we know it's fabricated? What happens is these centers, they say they have opt-in data, but the reality is what they do is they're calling on raw numbers, and when they get a transfer, they go to a website that they own or that they're running, and they input the information of that person into the website, creating a fake opt-in. Well, a lot of people don't understand is that when you pull this opt-in, you'll get longitude and latitude. And if you're using a VPN, like some of these folks typically do, it will show in a different sequence of numbers indicating it's not a valid opt-in. So these centers, in this case, they got one. Think about that. Now, let's continue. So obviously this is really bad. One liability. Torchlight, as you can imagine, was pretty upset about the situation. Who wouldn't? And demanded indemnity from Call Centrix. Does that sound familiar? When Call Centrix refused to defend Torchlight, Torchlight filed a claim against Call Centrix and then moved for a summary judgment, and that's where the ruling comes in. In Moore, the court granted summary judgment to Torchlight, essentially ordering Call Centrix to defend and indemnify it. This is true because in its insertion order, and let me interject here, you're buying leads and you don't have an insertion order that covers exactly what they're going to do for you, then you're really walking on thin ice. In this case, their insertion order included Call Centrix represented that all the consumers whose calls it transferred to Torchlight gave express written consent to receive telemarketing calls about insurance as required by the TCPA and do not call list requirements. Call Centrix warranted that consumers' prior consent would be validated by a third-party software. Call Centrix additionally agreed to preserve records of all calls made for 5 years and provide those records within 5 business days on request. Call Centrix warranted that it would monitor and control its vendors who were similarly required to comply with the agreement. Call Centrix agreed to obtain comprehensive insurance coverage for its actions under the agreement and named Torchlight as an additional insured. And Call Centrix agreed to indemnify, defend, and hold Torchlight harmless from any and all claims arising from any actual or alleged breach of the express representations or warranties Call Centrix made under the agreement, but apparently did none of those things. This is huge. And I'm happy to see that Torchlight flipped the script on this company. Because as you see, when these litigators come for you, they're coming for the big head, the big money. In this case, Torchlight was that person. He's the one, this company was the one that has to represent themselves, fight this. And obviously, this is a big win because a lot of people don't even go past, this insertion order. So, Call Centrix initially refused to indemnify Torchlight because there was only one call to Mr. Moore under the agreement. And because Call Centrix vendor, Wolf BPO, is the one to blame, the old pass the buck defense. Last year, I sued a call center in Pakistan. You can do it. And a lot of you guys have seen that. $500,000 lawsuit that I won in my favor. And to be honest, when I won that lawsuit, instead of collecting, I let it go because I knew that company didn't have the money to pay that $500,000. But my point is, these centers in Pakistan, Philippines, wherever they're at, you can reach out and touch them because they know these laws. But it costs money to run ads, to run landing pages, to generate a true opt-in. So what do? They cut a corner and they fabricate that opt-in the moment in time they get that phone they get that client on the phone. Think about that. So they get the client on the phone that they called off a list, and when the person agrees to a whatever product, they fill this out. So that way, in the event there's an issue, they come back with this fabricated opt-in. But it doesn't work. Eventually, we can see latitude and longitude and a few other items. I recommend you guys follow Mr. Troutman. This guy knows his stuff. Him and the Godfather, they really, really understand TCPA. But let's continue here. So Call Centrix, they didn't have proof of this opt-in. Of course, they outsourced it to Wolf BPO. So they passed the blame on to Wolf BPO, which is normal in this business to outsource within. And they couldn't provide the written consent. That was a big issue. Plus, they couldn't provide the recording. In this case, Mr. Moore, he got some. He got some. I think these guys are going to settle with Mr. Moore because this is just true negligence. But think about this. The company promises to provide compliant leads, promises to supervise its vendors, goes out and hires a Pakistan call center, and then says, wasn't our fault. And then because they feel that they're overseas, again, they feel no one can come after them. Wrong. Because what's going to happen here, in my opinion, okay, this is just my opinion, Call Centrix is going to go to Pakistan and recover whatever they got to recover to make Torchlight whole. And that's going to happen. I mean, if anybody's watching this, last year, again, the U.S. and Pakistan have a special agreement that allows you to sue them as long as you have a business relationship. That right there And this is what happening here. Should show everyone that think that just because you're overseas doesn't mean you could be liable here. You will. Let's continue on here. In the end, notice the court rejected all call centers' excuses and arguments, of course, and ordered it to defend and indemnify Torchlight as it agreed. Period. I like seeing this because I've seen too many times where they leave the agency hanging with all of these fees. Too many. And these guys disappear. And then some of these guys don't have the money, or they just feel it's a waste of breath, right, to go after them. I went after them, and I won in their court system. I think I'm probably the first American that sued somebody in Islamabad and won. Breaching lead service agreements. It's known. So let's continue on here. If you are working with Call Centrix or Wolf BPO, you have to question that relationship in light of the case. I get it. I'm not trying to beat on nobody. My message here, guys, is for all of you guys that are buying leads and for you guys generating leads. Follow the guidelines. It's going to cost you a little bit more money, but what is it worth? Having to deal with a class action lawsuit because you figured, hey, I'll just settle? Because a lot of you guys have that mentality. You guys are pushing volume and leads. And then what happens? You figure, oh, if I get a TCPA, I'll just settle at $5,000. Hey, that's the risk of doing business. That's the thinking. It's not going to work because here you got a class action lawsuit. This is major. One call. So imagine yourself right now, if you're out there just buying, you don't even know where they're originating from. You just, again, taking it on face value. Your insertion order is weak. This is just a great example of one call costing a company thousands of dollars just to defend themselves. Always be cautious of working with offshore call centers. Look, we need call centers overseas. It's not going nowhere. We need them. But if you're going to do business with a center, you got to take responsibility. You got to make sure that center is running by the books. You got to make sure that you have access to their dashboards, that you're seeing exactly what's happening. Because you definitely don't want to be in a situation like this. Always be cautious of working with offshore call centers, again, especially Pakistan. Definitely an outside share of the troublemakers seem to be coming from that region. Again, I hate seeing this because I have so many friends in Pakistan that are great people. But just again, like in anywhere, Pakistan, Philippines, US, you're going to have some troublemakers in there. But if you are working with a center, it's up to you to make sure, not take it again as face value. I've known agencies that have been put out of business. One of my friends, literally 5-6 years ago, he was pushing hard telesales. He got a DNC TCPA violation, $100,000, put him out of business. In fact, he's not in the business today. So it can happen. Indemnity provisions are not always what they seem to be. Are they insured? When we were providing life transfers, we made sure our life transfer system was insured. So in the event we had any of these issues, Berkshire Hathaway would step in and handle it. We wouldn't be fighting with each other about who gets to pay the defense bill, right? So ask these questions. Enforcing an indemnity provision is great, but Torchlight is still stuck in the case. And why are they stuck? Because they took the lead. They're going to be there to the end, man, because they took the lead. They worked that lead, so they're in the mix too. But I'm happy to see that they were able to go after the other co-defendant and make them pay. That is sweet. Because, again, most time they just bail on you and they leave you hanging with the bill. Call Centrix is in deep trouble because of the reliance on an offshore BPO when it probably would have been fine making its own calls to its own leads. Using someone offshore is often more dangerous, not less dangerous. And I agree with this. This is why for years, I've been coming on here talking about this. When centers overseas reach out to me, offer me the service, I go into, what's your DNC system? What's the name of it? I check and see if they're accurate. If they're running a website, I want to see the traffic on that website. And if you see that the traffic of the website is the same day of the transfer, something's off. Because when you buy opt-in data, it's coming in different dates. And when you finally get a hold of that person, it might be a week after. But the opt-in came in this date, the transfer came in this date. And with a lot of these guys that are faking these, they're calling on raw data, and then when they get someone interested, they create a fake opt-in. This is happening right now. So I hope this really gives you guys an insight of exactly how serious this is, because this can be you, this can be me. This is negligence. So with that said, I recommend you guys follow Mr. Eric. Again, he knows his stuff. He's been doing it for years. I have a friend of mine that he helped with. But it's important to make sure that your lead generation is in compliance. And if you want to avoid all this drama, switch to final expense inbounds. That's what we did. We paid a little extra per lead, but I'm not worried about my compliance department. I'm not worried about if we missed anything, because when you're dealing in volume, it gets crazy because you typically outsource into another group to help build that volume. And that's where the risk comes up. So today, if you're watching this video, get with your marketing firm. Ask the question. If they start getting a little defensive, offended, something might not be right. But you have every right to make sure you know what farm your lead came from. If you don't know, then you can possibly be in some hot water and you don't even know about it. You're just calling, relying on this marketing company, making sales. But you definitely don't want to receive something like this. And if you do, call Eric. Eric Troutman, he'll help you. He'll defend you. But again, be careful when you're picking up the phone, and I caution you when you're buying leads. So once again, for all of you guys out there, hope you guys are having a wonderful Sunday. Happy Father's Day to everybody. And if you have any questions, please feel free to call me. I'm not a lawyer, but again, I follow this stuff really close because we need to make sure that we're on top of our TCPA guidelines and DNC. So with that said, you guys have a great day. I'll see you guys at the top. Peace.